We're joined now by the driver, the number 88 Nationwide Chevrolet, the active driver wins leader here at Talladega Superspeedway, and the defending race winner, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale, obviously this track has a lot of special memories for you. Tell us a little bit your thoughts heading into Sunday's Geico 500.
Yeah, we I guess just ready to start the race, get qualifying and everything done, and figure out how the weather's going to do, and just get going. You know, the practice here is a little bit of fun because you just get out there and see what kind of car you got, but you don't really know for sure until you get out there with 43 guys. Everything acts a little bit different once everybody's on the racetrack together, and so the anticipation to get out there in the race is very high. And whereas at other racetracks during Friday and Saturday, you really are working and grinding through practice, working on a lot of balance issues. We're not really dealing with any of that stuff here. So, you know, the real anticipation's ramping up for the race itself. Qualifying's is what it is. We'll go out there and see where we end up, and you know, think we got a pretty good car. I don't really know for sure how good it is. We did have to put a whole new front end on it, so I'm sure it's different one way or the other. I wouldn't expect it to be exactly the same. So hopefully those guys improved it just a little bit more, and we'll have a good race on Sunday.
All right, we'll open it up to questions. We'll start here to your left with Tom.
Hey, Dale. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Your track record at plate tracks is so much better than anybody else. You've won 10 plate races. Nobody else active in the fields won more than 5. Why are you better than other people here? And does that cause you more pressure when you come here, or are you more relaxed when you come here?
You know, it doesn't really feel like it's a lot more pressure. I don't know why. You know, I don't know what it is about myself, but I've had some really fast cars. And the car, you know, if I go back, and I won't force you to do it, but if I went back and looked at all the races that I ran here, there's some where the car just didn't have what I needed. Every driver wants their car to do something different, but there's races where we just didn't have the combination of car and driver, and then you know, in the races that we won, we certainly did. One of the things that helped me a lot was when RCR and DEI and Petrie formed the RAD racing program that was strictly dedicated to plate racing. And Tony Sr., Tony Jr., just by happenstance, happened to be very smart about what they needed out of their plate cars and how to work in some of the gray areas that a lot of people didn't know about. You know, watching my dad, who's one of the best, I learned a tremendous amount because I solely watched him, you know, whereas someone else who grew up around the sport may not have focused as much on one particular driver. And so all those things maybe helped me develop into a better plate race car driver than the average guy. But the cars are everything. If the car can't complete the passes that my mind mentally wants it to make, then I won't be as offensive and as confident in making those moves. I'll make those moves less often and put myself in a least likely position to succeed. So, you know, if I would go out there and drive the car and it's just not doing what I think I need it to do, then yeah, your confidence goes down, and you certainly aren't the big dog out there. And someone else sort of rises to the occasion throughout the day and throughout the event as the dominant car, the dominant driver, the guy with the best stuff. And he's the one that tends to control the race. So you got to try to establish yourself as that guy all day long. And I've had more success doing it that way here lately than I have taking it easy or just taking care of my stuff till late. If you go out there and run real hard, I used to, when I was driving the Bud car around the 04, 03, 04, 05, when we was winning all them races, I raced as hard in the practice as I did in the race. And I think that in a sense, you kind of can set the tone early in the weekend with your competitors that this is who you're going to be out on the track. Plus, this is the car you've got. And when they start talking about who might be strong in the event before the event's even here, and you're one of those names on the list, they're thinking that you're a guy that they're going to be looking for, and that you're more likely going to get the drafting help when you need it and so forth. They're going to expect you to complete these passes and expect you to know what you're doing, and they tend to work with the guys that do that. I do. When I'm out there, I'm like, I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's got a good car. I'm going to push him instead of this guy. So that's sort of that starts at the early part of the weekend. And I think there was a time around 2010 to 2008 to 2012 where we didn't race in practice. We just come here, make a couple laps by ourselves, and then we go race. And it just didn't feel like you'd really understood who you were or what your car was capable of doing before you got to the race. So now we're drafting a lot more. We're going to draft some more in this next practice if some guys get out there. So that certainly helps. You get that confidence in your car in practice, and you get that confidence in yourself, and that bleeds over into the Sunday race.
Just a quick follow-up. Will you know before the race whether you got the car, or does it take getting in the race to know if you got the car?
Well, like I said, the car feels way different when you're out there with just 20 guys versus 43. It doesn't have the same – nobody has the same speed. Nobody gets the same runs. The same things that develop in the race won't develop in practice. And that's hard for me to understand even why that is. But in the race, the car just does more, is capable of more, and it'll show you a little bit more than what you can see out there in just a little pack. And not everybody's running as hard, not everybody's pushing as hard to get to the front. So those things don't develop in the practice. You get a little idea of what your car can do, but not everything.
All right, we're going to go to Reed, and then we'll come over here to the middle.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire Service. We've had 8 races so far with the new package this year, and on a number of occasions you've gotten out of the car and talked about it, how much fun it's been to drive. From your point of view, for those of us who don't drive race cars, what's the fundamental difference that you've seen and felt this year between last year and this year?
Yeah, a lot less grip. These cars are really harder to drive. To run a good lap at Richmond last week took a ton of discipline and self-discipline. Same thing at Texas, particularly the tracks where we have a lot of fall off and the tires get wore out and we get slow. There's so much more going on inside the car as far as what the driver's facing, what the driver's dealing with, how he's struggling with the car. There's so much more of that than we had in the past. With the spoilers on the back, those things, they didn't handle bad. They always drove pretty good, in the throttle all the time. If you're in the throttle all the time, you're obviously pretty comfortable. But, man, they were way harder to drive. And it seems weird to me, but it's what you want. It's hard. I don't know if it makes sense to someone who's not a race car driver, but that, you want it to be hard because all the guys in that garage think they're the best driver in the garage. And the harder we can make it, the better shot each one of them think they got at winning. Right? So all of us are like, make it harder, because that helps me. That's pretty much the mentality in there. And so, I think you see, in my conversations with the fans a little bit, they're seeing the cars move around. That's something they hadn't seen in a while. They're seeing the drivers wrestle with the cars more, which is important to I think, having a more exciting product. And if they can figure out a way to capture more of that, particularly with the television audience, I think we'll be going in the right direction. But, the cars are way slicker, harder to drive. They slide around on top of the track as far as in the past they felt forced into the track and felt very much more comfortable.
We're going to go to the middle now to Don and then Jeff, and then we'll work our way over this way as well. I got you.
Dale, Don Coble with the Florida Times-Union. Every time we come to a plate track, everybody talks about having teammates. At Daytona, we saw how the Gibbs teams were absolutely locked into each other. Do you think that we'll see a lot more of that? Will the Hendrick guys work together? Do you have to do that to break these teams up?
the Gibbs guys did it to perfection in Daytona. I think that we did a great job of that the last time at Talladega at the end of the season when I needed to win and Jeff was trying to protect his position. The other drivers certainly worked with each of us a lot more than we typically would. And I think it helped us and almost allowed us to achieve what we was trying to do there with win the race. But what the Gibbs guys did was good, and that's what you want to do. You don't start from 20th and all of you work together up through there. All of you have to find your way to the front on your own. But once you get there, you quit racing each other and just race everybody else. It's hard to do because somebody's going to have to be at the back of that line of teammates, and that's not where any of us want to be. I'd rather be leading every lap, and I think all my teammates would certainly rather be leading every lap. Being the leader is so much easier than trying to hold off everybody that's going to get these runs, because all they're going to keep doing is trying to get runs, get up beside you over and over and over. And if you're third, fourth in line, you may run side by side with somebody on your door for 20 laps, 50 laps before somehow your line can break free or that whole line dominates the particular line you're in. So it just depends on how it works out. We can't sit there and run, we can't sit there in 10th place and work together because we're just going to run in 10th. You got to get to the front on your own. And once you get there, hopefully you find your buddies up there with you. And then once you are together in the lead or toward the lead, you take care of each other a little bit better. If somebody tries to make a move, one thing that I did last time, I had to win the race. So we got all single file up on the high side, and I was just sitting there around 6th or 7th or 8th, and I had to get to the front. And we all know if you pull out, you go to the back. But Jimmy was running around 10th, and I knew he would let me in line. So I could be more aggressive in trying to pass to go up toward the front and find my way toward the front, and then we did. We got up in there in the top 3 and top 2, and that led to us being in the right position on those last final restarts to actually have a shot at winning. But so, yeah, I mean, you can work together a little bit, but you have to find your way to the front independently more so. But, again, if we get in those single-file lines where we're trying to hold everybody in their position, like if the leader goes up to the top to basically see if everybody will run there, and then anybody that drops out of line is screwed. So the leader's wanting this to happen because he'll lead and not face any real challenge. So that's perfect for the leader. And if you got a teammate running 10th and you're in 5th, you can be aggressive and try to screw that whole plan up, knowing that teammate might let you in if you happen to not make the right move and start to get shuffled to the back on your own. I hope that made sense.
We'll go to Jeff, then Kelly, then Ryan.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Dale, you had previously spoken about the lug nut issue and your concerns over it, and didn't get fined, by the way.
Yeah.
So congratulations on saying it nicely enough.
But it was cool. I didn't get fined.
But what do you think now that they've sort of changed the policy? Is that a satisfactory solution, or do you see it as more of a Band-Aid for now, or how do you see that?
I think it's a step in the right direction. It's not all the way there, and I don't think NASCAR has the technology to go all the way there, but I think it's something that they're interested in improving over time. The only way we could fix it today is to put all those officials back on pit road. That's not an option. And so facing that, I think that they did what they could do today. And I think that they will look at ways to have new technology come into the sport to be able to further observe what's going on throughout the event, so that they can ensure that everybody's doing what they need to be doing, what they should be doing on pit road. So I think I'm glad that they, for a while it was. You had half the people arguing that it policed itself, and then you had another group over here that thought it was a safety issue. And it appears that we have everybody on the same team, which I think is great for moving in a better direction. So I'm happy that they're making some choices that are good for the drivers.
Go back here to Kelly, then Ryan.
Kelly Crandall from PopularSpeed.com. Dale, Talladega has always been special to the Earnhardt family, the fans down here. But given the success, do you ever let the ones maybe that the races that got away, or when you didn't have the car that you needed, or maybe didn't make the moves that you could have to get up there, does that ever bother you when you walk out of here because of how special this place is?
I have only one I can remember is last year's. I done forgot all the other ones. I swear that race we ran. I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit, but I swear the race I ran here last year I thought was the best race I'd ever ran at Talladega, and it'll not really ever get remembered because I didn't win. So I'm disappointed because what happened in that race and what we were doing with the car and what the car was doing was amazing. So it sucks because we just 6 inches short of being declared the winner. And I can't even, we've lost a lot of races here, but I can't even remember any of them that stand out like that. So that was frustrating because that was actually the anniversary of my father's last win, and man, he get a bit envious. He gets so much credit for what a race that was and how we came back and all that stuff. And man, I thought I was writing my own little story here last fall, but it just didn't work out for me. So we'll have to try again this weekend to see if we can write it again. Hopefully get the win.
We're going to go in the middle to Ryan.
Ryan McGee, ESPN. When Tony was in here earlier, he was talking about Drivers' Council and this idea of communicating and how the owners have this group and the drivers have this group and there's NASCAR and the manufacturer, whatever, and the balance of defending what you need, but also the compromise. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like how does that communication work, and could it be better?
Yeah, I think what we're doing is pretty amazing. The conversation, at first it was NASCAR and the drivers getting together. That was incredible. We thought we'd never really have that opportunity to really sit down and spend time with everyone that needed to be in the same room. And NASCAR, to their credit, man, really puts a lot of preparation into those meetings. They do a lot of work that they could put on the drivers, but those meetings are very well done, and they're very productive because of a lot of the efforts that NASCAR puts into preparing for the meetings themselves. So the council is great in that regard. We just now started this opportunity to talk more with the RTA and the competition committee, which is really helping NASCAR, the teams, and the drivers, because the drivers all come in there and say, these are the parts and pieces we want. Well, then the owners come in and talk to NASCAR and say, well, those parts and pieces aren't stuff we really want. So we can't have that going on because nothing can get done. So we talk to the teams, and we allow them to be the parts and pieces guys, the detail guys. It's now up to the drivers just to say, this is what we want to feel. This is what we think would make good racing if the cars drove in this manner. And it's up to the RTA and NASCAR to come to an agreement on the direction the cars go technically. And the other point of that too is I've learned a tremendous amount about what is possible and what's not possible. You sit as a driver, you go through all these great ideas that sound awesome until you have to really put them on paper and make them work, and the teams will tell you whether that's feasible or whether it's not. And NASCAR will too. So I've certainly learned a tremendous amount about really how that process works between NASCAR and the competition side of the RTA. I've gained a lot more respect for the individuals in our sport with NASCAR and with the RTA and the competition committee. So, it used to be just drivers. When we started the council, it was drivers just pounding their fists on the table, and it's turned into so much more than that, and it's really productive.
Got time for one more. We'll go to Lee, please.
Lee Spencer, motorsport.com. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your father's birthday, and it'd be kind of hard to imagine him collecting Social Security because he was such a badass. But what do you take away from today, and how will you remember your dad?
I'd have to actually be reminded on what days, I have to be kind of reminded by somebody. I don't look at the calendar on the 28th and go, oh, tomorrow's Dad's birthday. I wake up in the morning and see something on social media and go, that's right. Damn if it ain't the 29th. because it sneaks up on you. We're so dang busy, you can't really keep stock in what day it is or where you are half the time. But you know, it's crazy to think of what he'd been like at 65 years old. You know, you kind of had an idea he wouldn't have changed a whole lot had he lived a little bit longer. But at 65, and what would he have been like at 80, and all those things would be hard to imagine. But it's awesome. One of the best things about it, and I've said it before, is that it's great that people still talk about him. That the sport, his fans, the media, that everybody still acknowledges who he was and what he meant. That's all I care about, is that he's always, you know, we don't ever, you know, forget just the impact that he had, because I felt like it was he had so much influence. Definitely in the top, you know, 5, top 3 people that influenced the sport as a whole. More than, you know, as much as Bill Sr. and guys like that. You know, I think I put him right up there with people that really changed the sport, and it's so awesome to see him get that kind of appreciation and recognition even after all these years. So hopefully that is something that never changes, and I see it, you know, on his birthday and days like this is when I'm reminded of those of that appreciation that everybody has for him. Yep.
Dale, thank you. Good
Thank you,
luck this
guys.
weekend.
Have a good